Wonderful. All right. So I'll wait a few minutes, but I'll kind of start our little intro. I do have one other slide just going over our agenda today. So of course, our Zoom opened at 12 o'clock. We'll, give a few minutes for folks to trickle in. And I just want to say welcome again for everyone who's joining us. Really excited to see all of the presentations that we have today. Like I said, it will be a mix of presentations from our sprint cohort and then our bootcamp cohort as well. So you'll see a little bit of both from each of our programs. And then, so from 12:10 to 12:40, ideally, we'll be doing the presentations and the product pitches. And then we do have a guest speaker joining us today, and that will be Brett, who is a recruitment partner at T6 Talent. Tough for me to think about all those T's in that one. And so he'll be joining us for a brief Q&A. And if you do have questions during that time, feel free to add them to the chat. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of time after my few questions for him. That way we can answer some of those as well. If you have any questions during the presentations for the presenters or the teams, do feel free to add those to the chat as well. Always awesome to see the conversation going on in there. And I know the teams would love to answer your questions as well too. And of course, if you have any questions for the CoLab team, feel free to add those to the chat. Or if you'd like to, you can email us as well. All right, let's jump right into our presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to call on our first presenter, which is Taya with her project Nudge. And I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong, Taya.
That's okay. It's Taya for everybody online. I am used to it. Don't worry about it at all. Let me get this set up. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, can everybody see that? Can everybody hear me and see that?
It is loading, but
okay.
I can see that it's your screen.
Okay.
Maybe just try stopping and resharing just to make sure.
Okay.
Perfect. Now we can see it.
You can see it now? Okay, great. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, so I'm Taya, and for the past 4 weeks, I've been working on Nudge, which is a product designed to help students and young professionals who struggle with executive dysfunction to alleviate their anxiety and decision fatigue while increasing productivity. So executive dysfunction often makes you look kind of like this picture here and is most common in people with ADHD or some other form of neurodivergence. It impacts their ability to perform tasks that they view as difficult, complex, or boring. Overcoming executive dysfunction often requires a lot of forethought and planning, which is the problem. Overcoming executive dysfunction requires that you overcome your executive dysfunction, putting you into an endless cycle. To-do lists get lost, you forget to set a reminder, you fall victim to task freeze or decision fatigue. So the question became, how can we help people who experience executive dysfunction be more productive while reducing their anxiety and decision fatigue? In week 2, I was able to gather survey responses from over 50 people and perform 4 different interviews. Over 70% of the people I spoke to said that they experience executive dysfunction several times a week, with the majority saying they experience it every single day. 80% said they struggle with personal development tasks and work and school-related tasks, and 70% said they struggle with household tasks and self-care tasks. Coping mechanisms, like I alluded to before, were difficult to implement due to their reliance on the user's executive functioning, and they tended to stop working over time as novelty and urgency wore off. Based on user feedback, the solution needed to do the following things: break large tasks into small, manageable pieces, sprinkle smaller tasks throughout the day or the week, and provide rewards and a sense of novelty to maintain consistent productivity. So meet Kate. Kate is a developer working for a mobile gaming company, and when large projects with urgent deadlines come up, she finds herself getting frustrated and sidetracked more often due to feeling overwhelmed. This anxiety causes a decrease in her productivity across the board, including work and household chores. Kate uses Nudge to break complicated tasks into smaller pieces with rewards and small tasks built in at regular intervals. Key features are broken into two categories. First, we have project mode. In project mode, the user selects the length of work blocks and breaks, and Nudge selects activities for breaks at random. Then they just let the timer run, and it will tell them what to do and for how long, reducing the risk of decision fatigue. For example, work for 30 minutes and then take a 5-minute break to go get a snack or to stretch. Next, we have task mode. In task mode, Nudge will detect an increase in activity on the user's phone, say an hour on Instagram, and will notice that you got sidetracked. Then it will recommend a different activity. Have you gone outside today? Maybe you need to water your plants. All right. So I learned a lot over the past 4 weeks, but the most important thing that I'm still working on is starting small. It's important to narrow down your problem and solution to serve a specific user so that you don't overwhelm your audience all at once. I tend to get really ambitious, and I had a pretty long list of problems and features to sort through, and I did pick a very large problem. It's also important to let your users tell you what their problem is and not ask them to solve it. You want to focus on that problem space as much as possible before jumping to solutioning. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And now we'll just go for some feedback from our mentor, Esther.
Hi, yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. I really liked it. And first of all, I have to say, I love the name. I think, I mean, you know, maybe the book as well, but I really love the name. I think it's very positive, and, you know, it helps you to think of this as a product that is just fun to use as well. With regards to the problem that you identified, I can relate myself, and I think many people of us can relate to it. And so that already shows you identified a space where there is a need to solve a problem. And you also highlighted that really well with your findings. I think asking 50 people is quite a good number. Conducting interviews, you did that too. And then you already kind of created a prototype, a wireframe, which is great to visualize how your solution can look like, and making it easier to test it afterwards. So that was really well done. And with regards to your learnings, I think you pointed this out very well. The first challenge is always you have a huge space, and what do you narrow it down to? So well done. And yeah, with maybe coming to next steps and recommendations, what you could do, I would say that kind of the pitch that you have right now is a bit technical in terms of talking about this executive dysfunction, but you can, I think, just expand it in terms of a productivity tool. So something that many people experience all day long. And do I have another thing? I took some notes. Yeah, keep testing. I think that's the next step, you know, with your wireframes prototypes. This is where you can get most valuable feedback on and continue to iterate.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our next team, which I am probably not going to be able to pronounce correctly, but it is Agnopsis, with our product manager, Giga.
Hi everyone. We'll just take a minute. I will share my screen. Okay, so make that full screen or something. Slideshow. Oh, okay, so I'd like to talk about Agnosis Health product. We're calling it communities, but I want to bring a brief background around why we are creating another healthcare product. Probably because there are many challenges with healthcare in itself. And it actually starts with my own problem. I arrived in Canada in 2021, and then a month after I experienced scalp issues. It took me 8 months to figure out getting a practice, getting aligned to some practice physician, someone to talk to me at least and tell me what they think was wrong. And then after I spoke to my practice physician, it took another 1 month before I could meet him, and then all in all, it took about 14 months before I could even get to a dermatologist. And when I got to the dermatologist, it was the craziest thing in the world, because in 5 minutes, he had prescribed hydrocortisone, which is something that is available over the counter. And that was problematic, but I think that it's something that is very reflective of most people's experience. And I was an healthcare entrepreneur. I did have an healthcare company in Nigeria, and I really wanted to think about what the solution around those problems was. Some of the big reasons why there are healthcare issues such as mine is that there's a huge gap between the demand and supply for healthcare. Based on data, there's about 3.5 physicians for every 1,000 people, and so there's just a lot of strain on physicians, and whether strained or not, people are unable to get access to care. And that's what we were trying to build. So we are looking to, well, there are two ways to thinking about this problem around sorting out access to care. The first would be building more doctors, and the other way would be increasing the efficiency. Many people seem to think that it's a money problem, but just to highlight, and the middle point I raise here sort of shows it's not a problem about money. For example, in Canada, the average spend on an individual is about $7,800. In Nigeria, it's $77. Yet, access to care is more accessible in Nigeria than in Canada. So you could literally just walk into a hospital and get care. It's impossible in Canada. And so we're working on a AI-based solution that streamlines communication with people, whatever it is they say, as well as peer feedback to solve people's problems immediately. So it will pretty much be like a solution that's on your phone. We did run a pilot community. There were close to 1,000 issues solved over a 3-month period before COLAB actually. But a huge part of COLAB in terms of user research was listening to exactly what problems people had and trying to frame that up into a solution that I think would be ready today. I did think I was going to show a video. Am I supposed to show it, or will everyone will it be played from your end?
I think we might be running out of time for the demo.
Okay.
So anyone who wants to view the demo can definitely take a look at the product portfolio on the site. Continue.
Sure. So basically, you can look at the demo and check how this works. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll move over to mentor feedback from Emily.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation. I think you actually did a really good job at telling your story. I think it's actually great that you started with your own personal story and you kind of laid out, I guess, the whole process. I guess even like when you think about it, it's kind of like a user journey, very like, I guess like plain and simple in a way that I think it actually helps like tell why this is a big problem. Even, you didn't do it with stats. So I think that actually you did really good on that. And I also like that you actually talked about like there are different ways to solve this healthcare issue. So, it sounded like, all right, well, that there are two sides of the equation, right? It's either the supply of healthcare workers versus the efficiency of them. And then it kind of tells me, at least, in that 3 minutes, like, okay, well, you actually spent time fleshing it out and try to reframe it in different ways. So I think that actually is also well done. And we also talked about like the pilot, which also is very reassuring as well. I think something for future considerations, I know there's limited time as well, so maybe you just didn't have a chance to touch on that. But I think as soon as you mentioned like AI and healthcare, then people's kind of first instinct would be like, all right, there's a lot of trust and liability involved. So it will also be good to at least, I guess, kind of touch on that, or talking about like privacy of information. Those would probably be like big things that people would jump on right away.
Sure.
Yeah, overall, great job. I really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you for the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to respond now?
Oh, no, thank you so much. Any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat so that Giga and his team can respond. And we will move on to our next presentation, which is Pallavi with ScheduWiz.
All right, thank you so much. I'll just share my screen. Is it coming up?
Yep.
Okay, I'll start the slideshow. All right, so good morning, everyone. Hope you're having nice, oh, sorry. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a nice day. I'm Pallavi Gupta, and I'm the, hey, can you, I'm just stopping it for a while. I think it's just doing automatic. All right, I'm so sorry for that. So it's technical issues. Anyways, I'm Pallavi Gupta, and I'm the product manager here at Co.Lab, and I'm excited to share with you my product idea, ScheduWiz. It's a product built for recruiters to offload their time-consuming coordinating and scheduling tasks so that they can focus on what they love to do, which is recruiting. So I'll jump right into the problem background. So I'm pretty sure that most of you must have been the part of some or the other interviews or must have interacted with recruiters. So, you know, they have been entrusted with such an important task to bring the right talent. They are also part of doing such an important work such as candidate engagement, employer branding, onboarding. But if we really look deeper into their day-to-day experiences, they are often bogged down by very cumbersome, manual and inefficient scheduling and reducing process. And that's where my problem statement is born out of my own experience working as a recruiter. Here is a very quick snapshot of the research method that I used, user interviews and surveys. And here is a very quick snapshot of my findings. Most of them felt that the difficulty level is high, about 6. They work on high volume, almost 15 candidates per day just for scheduling on top of their regular recruitment task. And 80% of them stated that 50% of their time just goes on scheduling. So this is quite surprising, which clearly shows that it gives them a very little time, to focus on the other important activities that I shared earlier. So landing on the solution, I just gave a little burp on why the name. I want something to give recruiter that wow and a magic feeling. The idea is to build an interface which will be powered by a conversational AI, which would be able to chat with the interviewers as well as the candidates and take that decisions, and then fed it to an automated scheduling scheduling workflows, which is not quite the case right now for the other scheduling solutions that we have right now in the market. Obviously, yet further to be discussed with the designers and the developers. Learnings, how to keep my personal biases aside, me being a recruiter myself, choosing the right audience, going into the real pain points, being resourceful as I had like a very small time to do things, and being a lifelong learner. So thank you so much for listening to me. Hope you're excited. Feel free to pass by to my portfolio and connect with me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great job. We'll move over to our mentor feedback from Esther.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I really liked it. I especially like the fact that you are the user of your own product and you really know what you're talking about. So I think that's something that as a product manager is very often a valuable trait, that if you know yourself what you're talking about, and if you are also the user of the product. So I think you picked a space that is very good, and you also jumped on an important train here, the AI train. So I think that was a good approach, especially for a task like that. It just highlights, this is a repetitive task. It just it's not fun, and an AI solution makes a lot of sense here. You kind of also showed that you have a very user-centric approach here, that you revolve around what problems you're trying to solve. So that was also very well done. And with regards to what you could do in the future, I would say I think the next step would be to kind of map out how the solution could look like in real life, maybe just a wireframe, a mock-up, to collect additional feedback. Also, I would say probably market research is a good thing here. There might be solutions that go in a similar direction. Thinking about Calendly is probably also looking into similar products. So you can for sure get some inspiration there. And yeah, continue on building this. I think it really makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both. I will remove your spotlights. And now our next presentation is actually going to be a recording. So all the pressure is on me. Our product managers from Sprint for this particular product were unavailable for their presentation today. So we'll watch their video directly from their portfolio. All right.
Hi, I'm Elena Bailey, co-founder of Sust. Ever since I was a little girl, I loved fashion and styling from my mom's closet. But I got older, finally got my own credit card and could online shop, but I found the process of styling myself online less enjoyable. I'm in a new era of my life. I don't know my style. There are too many filtering steps and so many products. It's simply overwhelming. So I shared this with a friend, my now co-founder, and we decided to go deeper. We surveyed 84 people, and 92% see it important that online shopping platforms offer personalized recommendations, and 95% think platforms with customized sizing and style recommendations will lead to repeat purchases. So we went even further, and we spoke to a mid-sized fashion brand with $10 million in revenue, and they shared that there's oftentimes a disconnect between the marketing and the inventory team, leading to missed trends and market opportunity, manual workflows in their teams, and of course, over manufacturing. And then this over manufacturing leads to high costs, waste and pollution to the environment, and then revenue loss due to unsold inventory. So the problem is that fashion brands need a way to streamline operations between marketing and manufacturing teams because disjointed operations affect profit margins. So fashion brands need a viable solution that can reliably predict what, when, and how much to manufacture. Sust will be the bridge between what fashion brands need and what online shoppers need. The Sust solution is a software that embeds into a fashion brand's website to offer wardrobe curation and outfit sizing while conducting data analytics of the customer to give brands that insight that they need to make better manufacturing and marketing decisions. We launched a platform where users get to experience that front-end experience of playing a this or that quiz to suss out their style. And 85% of those that have used our platform said that we accurately predict their style profiles and they're loving their outfits. Our subscription model will follow enterprise or a subscription base, just like a SaaS model. And we know that in the future we'll beat out our competitors because we're going beyond sizing and manufacturing insights by providing that personal styling to the customers and that fashion trend prediction that brands need. We looked at the market and it's a multi-billion-dollar problem, but with generative AI, which we plan to leverage, it is predicted to contribute hundreds of billions of dollars back into the fashion market. And we predict that we'll be able to capture the 4,500 brands within the $10 to $50 million revenue bracket in North America as customers. We will be waiving the first 90 days of the cost to use our software when we do launch. And we've had great progress and enjoyed the Co.Lab Sprint program. We've understood our users much better. We went back to basics. We've done better quality control of our product and looked at success metrics of our product. And of course, today, learning the importance of storytelling. And as we go forward, we'll be releasing our platform with the fall collection, and we'll be launching our AI recommendation engine in November, and of course, getting ready to fundraise in the new year. So we ask for mentorship and advisory, and of course, business connections, and then opportunities to pitch even more to accelerators, incubators, just wherever we can. And we're the team to do this. It's myself, Kezia, my co-founder, and we have a developer and also a software advisor. So please join us in making Sust a reality, all in a click. Thank you so much.
All right. Stop sharing my screen, and we're going to ask for feedback from our mentor Emily. Although Alana and Kezia are not here, I'll be able to share the feedback with them, so we'll spotlight you for your feedback.
Okay, sure, sounds good. Yeah, I think the presentation was definitely very comprehensive. I think they covered a lot of research, whether it's external research, competitive research, and even like survey that they conducted. So I think that kind of tells me that they kind of know the space very well from like different angles, from the angle of a consumer as well as the angle of the retailer, or manufacturer as well. So I think the problem is definitely kind of like well validated. And they even kind of go into the details of the go-to-market, talked about the size of the market and roadmap as well. So I think those are definitely very well done. And I think something that potentially maybe for future considerations, or just maybe something that didn't get covered in the short 3 minutes, is I guess my question would be potentially addressing whether or not like large retailers probably have their own algorithm, or I'm kind of like curious about, you know, how you're differentiating yourselves from them, especially if you're kind of pitching the fact that your algorithm is better. Then I'll be curious to see, like, how do you know that? Like, is there a niche that they're pitching? I think those are kind of information that potentially, like, data related things and domain related things would be important to highlight to people. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know it's tough to give feedback on a very short presentation, and of course when the folks aren't here as well, but thank you. Wonderful. All right, let's move on to our next presentation. This will be Palette, and our product manager is Martin.
Hi, everyone. Can you see my presentation first page?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Ever stumble upon a breathtaking travel photo or an enchanting blog and felt the urge to visit? That's where travel truly begins. But how often do these inspirations become real trips? A staggering 33% of travelers never act on their inspiration. This is where Palette, your early stage travel companion, steps in. And with the global travel planning tools market expected to reach over $1 trillion by 2027, the potential is immense. Here you can see our homepage, which is all user gathered inspirations. These are your personal inspirations. I'll show you how the add inspiration form looks like. For example, this YouTube video for Mount Fuji. Next, we will search. We could search for location or title, for example, Tokyo, and then search again within these results for tags. Next, we can create a trip. Let's say we're going to Asia and Tokyo. We can select our dates and click save. And then from there, we go back to our trips tab. The video restarted, sorry. Yes, we're now at Mount Fuji again and searching. Let me just fast forward. We created a trip. And now we go back to our trip and add our inspirations by selecting inspirations. As you can see, Palette isn't just another booking tool. While many tools might help you book a trip or create a generic travel itinerary, Palette ensures that the inspirations that ignited your travel desires aren't lost, but are ready and organized to be transformed into memorable, personalized journeys. From consolidating inspirations to planning your trip, Palette ensures that when Wanderlust strikes, you're not just dreaming, you're planning. From our early outreach, we've secured over 30 user commitments, highlighting a clear opportunity for Palette in the travel planning market. Our unique capability to understand where users source their inspirations and which ones they act upon sets us apart. This data-driven approach not only enhances the user experience, but also opens doors for strategic partnerships and affiliate marketing opportunities in the travel industry. In my journey with Palette, 3 personal insights stood out: the need for adaptability, the essence of clear communication, and the power of simplicity in design. While I'm here presenting, Palette is the collective effort of a team. Each member with their unique expertise and experience has been instrumental in bringing Palette to life, and a special mention to our mentor, Kiori, for her invaluable guidance. Our journey taught us to prioritize, communicate, and adapt. We learned the balance between aesthetics and functionality and the importance of user feedback. This wasn't just about building a product, but about our team's resilience and commitment. These lessons will continue to guide us as we move forward in refining and iterating Palette, ensuring we continue to meet and exceed the evolving needs of travelers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Perfect timing as well. I really like this product idea. I liked it when you started it in Sprint. I would love to plan a trip to Japan myself, but I'm several years out for saving up from it. But it would just be so cool to be able to corral all that info and not lose anything. And also kind of fun to like daydream that I'm already on vacation at the same time. Love it. All right, let's move over to our mentor feedback, which will be from Vandita.
Thanks, Beth. I just joined. I will be honest. The last slide was when I joined, so my apologies.
Let me see.
Sure it must have been a great presentation.
Let me see if one of our other mentors minds jumping in. I know you were joining us a little bit later. Emily or Esther, would either of you want to hop in to give a little bit of feedback? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I can give some feedback. So yeah, first of all, I think you highlighted again quite an important problem space, and I think you also that's what I really liked is how you already designed the solution. So it's very you can already imagine how this is going to work, how this is going to look like, and I think for someone who is like me, an avid traveler, and has been in the travel space for quite a while, I know that this matters a lot when making decisions. So I think it was good that you focused your efforts on that, and yeah, I really like this. So I think that's all from my side.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Esther. I know I put you both on the spot there for the feedback. We'll move along to our next presenter. This will be our final presentation. Again, if anyone has any questions for the presenters, do feel free to add them in the chat. I know folks would love to answer your questions, so definitely don't hesitate. And then we'll move on to our last presentation, and then we will have our chat with our recruiter, Brett. So our next presenter is Anam with her product Mover.
Hi, everyone. Please excuse the voice. I'm getting over a cold, so I will be trying my best. Can everyone see my screen?
I think it is just, oh, now it's loaded.
Perfect. Okay, so welcome to Mover, Find Your Friend with a Truck. My name is Anam, and I'm the product manager. We have Chrisea, our product designer, Joel and Sixters, our software engineers, and Vandita, our mentor. Meet Joey. Joey is upgrading his apartment furniture and has found the perfect couch on Facebook Marketplace. However, Joey has a sedan, and he knows for a fact his couch won't fit in it, only if he had a friend with a truck. Introducing Mover. Mover is a freight broker company that connects customers with local drivers who have pickup trucks, minivans, and cargo vans for moving large items with same-day service and upfront pricing. So think of it as Uber, but for moving. So this is why this is important. So 100% of our surveyors reported moving large items in their cars. This included furniture, camera cranes, stoves, and even a piano. Of those, 70% reported driving risk with the trunk remaining open, items on top of cars, and even difficulty closing doors. Of those, 40% would consider a U-Haul, with 20% calling a friend with a truck, but people don't want to call or wait around for someone to show up. Also, 0% would search online for moving companies. One of our interviewees said, I pray to get home without being pulled over. Another person said, we made the move at night. We were afraid of the mattress tipping over and causing an accident. So clearly, this service is important to keep our roads safe. So what do users want? They want upfront pricing, immediate availability, and easy bookings, and also assistance in loading and unloading their items. On Mover, you can sign up as a mover or a driver and as a customer. As a driver, we will ask you to create an account with your basic information and a profile picture. Then we'll ask you to verify your documents, which is your driver's license, manually, as well as a picture. The next page will ask you to enter your vehicle info, your license plate, year, model, make, a picture of your vehicle, as well as vehicle insurance. And then that is it. That will take you to the application status page where it'll be pending. And once approved, you'll be ready to move. As a customer, we'll ask you to enter your pickup and drop-off location, your contact, your vehicle type. Do you want a truck, something smaller, something larger, your rate type, fixed or hourly, and if you want your assistance loading, unloading, or both. The next page will then ask you how many large items you have over 4 feet. If you need help carrying it up and down stairs, curbside, elevator, we'll ask you to upload a photo of your item and also add a note to the driver. For example, hi, I am in the lobby. You will then select a mover from a list, and that is it. You'll be ready to move. You'll have a dynamic map as well as a summary and arrival time of your driver. So my learnings include forward planning and organization. PM is a very iterative process. You want to stay ahead of the game. Establishing a close relationship with your users. You're going to need them for surveys, interviews, so you want to stay close. Communication and transparency with the team. We want to know what's going well, but also not so well, so the help can be extended. And the overall team learnings included effective team communication, adapting to changing priorities, and it is a very iterative process, and teamwork and collaboration because everyone is coming together to share ideas. Overall, Joey is super happy. He saved his money, time, and energy by having everything on one platform, and his couch looks amazing in his apartment. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much. I know there's a lot of pressure going last, but it was wonderful. And we'll move along to our mentor feedback from Vandita.
Thanks, Beth. I think this is great. I like how you went with the flow of the presentation. It caught the concept, and very quickly you were able to showcase in a few clicks your actual working prototype. So that's interesting. I'd love to see what you guys do as next steps, and especially about how would you want to make money when it comes to pushing this out in the market, and how would you end up as your end goal of ultimately becoming profitable with this business?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll remove your spotlights and just want to say thank you to everyone who was able to present today. I know it could be tough, a little bit nerve-wracking, and thank you to all of our mentors for the amazing feedback, jumping in at the last moment as well too. Also difficult to do. And thank you to everyone else for joining. Of course, to everyone in both of our cohorts for all of the hard work that they put in, even if they were not selected today. You can view everybody's product portfolios on our website, all of those recorded pitch presentations. And thank you, of course, to everyone who's joining us to watch all the presentations, celebrate with us the end of these two cohorts as well. All right, and now we'll move over into our Q&A with Brett Reed, who has just joined us. So let's say a big welcome. And I'll just ask you to do a quick introduction of yourself, Brett. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. Hey, everyone, my name's Brett. I work as a consultant in the recruiting and the HR space for early stage startups. Prior to this, I worked in startups as small as 10 people and as large as 500 people, recruiting mostly for product design and engineering roles across both hardware and software. So now working with teams fractionally to, again, help them grow and help them figure out how do they get from that 10 people pre-seed trying to figure out a product idea point up to raising a Series A, raising a Series B, and everything that goes in between.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we'll jump right into the questions. That way there'll be some time left over for any questions from the audience as well. So of course, just a quick reminder to everyone in the audience, feel free to add your questions in the chat so that I can kind of pull from those at the end as well. But yeah, so what would you say is the most common mistake that people make when putting together their resume?
Yeah, I think the most common mistake is that people are using resume templates that are difficult for a recruiter to actually read and understand. So if you think of, if I'm typically posting, let's say, an associate PM or a PM role, right now I'm getting anywhere between 800 and 1,200 applicants in the first week. And so when I'm going through those 800 to 1,200 applicants, I'm spending a couple of seconds on each resume to just really quickly get a sense of, is this person qualified and or a fit for this role? Distracting colors, graphs that are hard to understand the context of, charts, images, infographics, things like that are often a distraction and hard for me to actually decipher what they mean. What does 5 stars in sprint management mean relative to 4 stars, relative to the 3 stars that you put for agile? Like, understanding those nuances is difficult. And so I often just skip right past it. And so the biggest tip in terms of resume formatting or setup is use something clean, simple, black and white, as basic as it comes. There shouldn't be a lot of fancy formatting. You want to just really get across the content, not necessarily the formatting of that content.
Wonderful. That's really, really great feedback. And you can see the reactions both from Helen and Shifumi in the chat of 800, that surprising number. The next question kind of piggybacks on that one and builds off of that a little bit. How can candidates structure their resume so that the recruiter will want to read more and learn more about them?
Yeah, the easiest way is to make it glaringly obvious to somebody that doesn't understand product management well, why and how you are very qualified for that role. And so taking a step back, this means if it is a product manager role in a B2C company looking for somebody that has experience in consumer mobile applications, you need to have that experience. And if you do have that experience, make sure it's glaringly obvious. So literally put that at the top. You have your name, underneath your name, product manager in B2C mobile apps. Make it very easy for a recruiter to look at your resume and say, oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for. If you don't have the experience, don't apply. And if you have the experience, but it's kind of a little bit murky or it's in a bit of a gray area, draw that parallel and make it very easy for a recruiter to say, oh yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know some folks are nervous to draw those connections, but I think that is very, very important, especially like you said, if it's kind of murky and unclear, it's important to make it as clear as possible for sure. And yeah, pull from that experience, but make it obvious. Lastly, of my questions, I should say, so again, anyone in the audience, please do drop your questions in the chat because we will have time. Are there any specific tools that you suggest for a candidate to use to enhance their resume? I know we're seeing, a ton of tools out there. Are there any ones that you specifically would suggest, and maybe give us a reason why?
Yeah, good question. So I'll start with tools I would avoid. I would avoid Canva. I would avoid anything that's like, again, very graphics based or very design focused. This is different if you are like a product designer, or maybe if you are applying to a company like Canva or something where design is going to help you stand out or is very relevant for the role. But otherwise, I use Google Docs when I'm working with folks and putting together their resumes. If you need help, resume.io is a website that has a lot of really great templates and again, helps you build or take modular blocks and use them across different templates. I would just, again, urge everybody, use the templates that are a little bit simple, a little bit more straightforward and less graphic and colorful. Other things I would do, this is like, you can use ChatGPT, you can use AI to help you understand how to best frame your experience or your skills. You can use it to edit what you're writing. The other thing that's often forgotten is to actually like read your resume out loud. And so write your resume, do it, leave it overnight or leave it a couple of hours, go back to it and read it out loud to yourself and make sure that the flow and what's actually written in there makes sense when you are speaking. Sometimes it's very easy that when we're writing and we're reading in our head, we miss grammar issues. We miss that something kind of is very long or is run on or is difficult to decipher. And so read it out loud, or if possible, send it to a friend and have them read it out loud and just make sure that they feel like it makes sense.
That is really, really great. I've definitely fallen into making those mistakes before. I've used Canva for a resume, and I did actually use an audio tool to read my resume back to me and realized that I was putting a lot of the same words over and over again. Sorry, I think someone's unmuted. Let's make sure everyone's on mute. Sorry. Yeah, definitely noticed that I was using a lot of the same words repeatedly, which I wouldn't have caught on my own. So really, really great suggestions there. So I see a few questions in the chat. We'll move over to those. I'll read them out loud and go from there. Anam asks, how should we approach summary or excellence, introduce yourself fields when applying? Should I put a cover letter in that?
Yeah, good question. If a job application specifically asks for a cover letter, you should include a cover letter. Typically, we're seeing less of this in tech, more regulated, larger legacy industries. So telecom, insurance, banking, healthcare, cover letters are often required. In venture-backed tech companies, it's almost never mandatory. And so I would say just avoid it. It just adds clutter to your application. When it comes to your resume and that overview or summary, or if you're applying online and there's a blurb or a box asking you to describe yourself or give an overview, again, remember that the recruiter that is reviewing your resume very likely is not a product management specialist or doesn't have a background in product. And so what you want to do is just make it, again, glaringly obvious in that short summary that you have the skills that they're looking for. And so you want to look at the job description, look for what it seems like they're looking for. And so again, if that's experience maybe in a customer-centric B2B environment, or experience working closely with engineers or designers, figure out what it is that seems to stand out in that JD and call out very clearly and concisely in your overview that you have that experience.
Perfect. That's really great. Francis asked, how many follow-ups and how soon is appropriate to send to hiring managers after applying?
Yeah, good question. If in doubt, honestly, just ask the hiring manager at the end of the interview if it's unclear what the next steps are or when you should expect to hear back. I often just tell people, just ask them. So, hey, this was such a great interview. Thank you. When should I expect to hear back, or when would it be okay for me to follow up? And they'll let you know. If it seems like they're brushing you off, or it seems like they don't really want you to follow up, that's maybe a sign. If they're open, you can follow up typically after, I would say, 2 to 3 days. And if you don't hear back after that first follow-up, I would follow up again 2 or 3 days later. After 2 touch points, if you haven't heard back, I would just assume that they're ghosting you and they're not interested in moving forward. And I probably wouldn't continue to ping them.
Would you say that same timeline applies to folks who maybe haven't landed the interview yet? You said sometimes you're viewing 800 applications on that first pass. So would that same timeline apply of like 2 to 3 days after kind of thing?
Yeah, typically I think like 3 touch points total. So your initial touch point, whatever that is, whether that's an application or an interview, 1 follow-up a couple of days later, a second follow-up a few days after that. And whether you're applying, whether you're actively in the interview process, early stage or later stage, 2 follow-ups after that initial touch point is typically your best cadence.
Okay, perfect. This one's kind of long, so let me just make sure I'm reading. Okay, I have been seeing quite often recently that people who successfully landed a role recommend to stay on top of mind by reaching out to them with a specific question related to the role. Oh, okay. So somebody who has landed a role recommended to stay on top. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand how this one is worded.
Sorry, that's my, I think, complicated German, German thinking, I guess. So basically what I want to know, people recommend, you know, you got to stay on top of mind while you're applying, because as you said, those 800 applications, you need to sort through them. So there is the strategy, you just contact the hiring manager or the recruiter directly, and just ask a question to get the conversation going. Is that a smart strategy, or would you say it's kind of, well, annoying?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely smart. Like, listen, some people are going to find it annoying, but I think like it's always worth shooting your shot and trying. If you annoy somebody, the worst case scenario is they're going to ignore you. They're not going to actively try to block you from getting an interview or getting the job. So always try. I think easy ways to stand out are, if you can, download or use the product and try to give them some form of feedback, find a bug and give them a recommendation on how you would develop a solution for that. A good example I have is I recently hired a product manager for HelloFresh, the direct-to-consumer meal delivery service, and somebody found a bug in our kind of user onboarding flow. And so they found it, they did a Loom video showing what the bug was, talking quickly about what they would do to solve it. It was like a 2-minute Loom video. They sent it to me, and it very quickly kind of bumped them to the top of my list for talking to and getting in front of our team, because they took literally just 2 minutes to show that they cared and that they'd spent some time in the product. And that's a very easy, low-hanging fruit kind of way of setting yourself apart.
I love that. I think that's great. We're always talk about, you know, people showing that they can do the role, that they can fit with the company, that they do have, you know, the same passion and focus. So that's awesome. A couple more questions here, and then we'll have to cut it off. Sorry, folks. But how can I effectively showcase my skills and qualifications when transitioning to a PM role, especially if this would be my first experience in a formal product management position? Yeah,
that's a really good question. I think leverage the skills that you have. People talk a lot about like transferable skills. And most of the time it's somewhat BS in the sense that like everybody has a lot of transferable skills and it's very vague and it's very hard to understand what does that mean. But if you were a lawyer or you worked in the legal field in a past life, then look at companies that are in legal tech where you can resonate and have a lot of empathy for what that end user is because you were the end user before. If you were a designer or you were an engineer in a past life, look for a company that is looking for a PM that is within the UX team, or a PM that's going to be working closely as a technical PM with engineers. Find out kind of what really differentiates you. When you look at transferable skills, what have you done before in past careers? What have you done before outside of work? And how can you relate that to the product or the business that you are applying to? If you don't have product management skills yet, formally on paper, you need something else to set yourself apart. And so empathy for that user, and understanding of the product in the space, and understanding or a deep level of empathy for the stakeholders that you'll be working closest with in the role. Those are easy ways that you can kind of help to position yourself as qualified.
Perfect. That's great. That's a really, really common question that folks ask. So thank you. Another one from Esther: how useful are product portfolios for product managers? Can this move the needle? Would a recruiter look at those portfolios? And then she put in brackets here asking, especially because it is more common for designers.
Yeah, definitely more common for designers. The less formal work experience you have in product, the more helpful a portfolio is. But again, you want something somewhat relevant. And so if your whole portfolio is very focused on like UI, UX, front end type of product problems, and you're applying to a back end technical PM role that's focused mostly on APIs, like that relevance isn't necessarily there. And so it probably doesn't matter as much. And so I care about quality a lot more than quantity, and how aligned what you've done is to what I need you to do. And so even if it means just like selecting one thing from your portfolio and sharing that with the recruiter or sharing that with the hiring team, if it's very aligned, it's better than sharing a full portfolio that's only somewhat aligned.
That's really helpful. Thank you. I think we'll take one or two more. I think we answered Larissa's earlier, how to write an effective summary in a resume. That one you briefly touched on, I think, prior as well. So last one, how can I best send cold messages? I have tried to get recruiters' email addresses and LinkedIn profile, but it's not always positive. What can I do?
Yeah, I think it depends on who the audience is. So if it's a recruiter, LinkedIn and email are typically your best channels. If it's a hiring manager, email is typically better than LinkedIn. Hiring teams are inundated with a lot of inbound right now, especially because the number of applicants for roles is so high. And so the easiest thing you can do is send something that's very short, very brief, very concise, and very clearly helps you to stand out. And so again, going back to that example of a Loom video, if somebody sends me 3 lines that's like, hey, Brett, I applied for the PM role. I noticed if I was going through the user onboarding flow of the product, I noticed that there was actually what I think is a small bug attached to Loom with a little bit more info. That's it. I'm much more likely to respond to that and forward that to my team than 4 paragraphs that are telling me why this person is so qualified for the job and why they're so excited and things like that. And so to try to be short, try to be concise and brief, deliver value in some way, show that you're excited, but make it as easy as possible for somebody to read it and either forward it on or respond to.
Perfect. That's really, really great feedback. And I think a good reminder, like you said, if there are that many applications, you have to be as concise as possible because you're all humans as well. I guess I'll just wrap it up here. I mean, I'll ask you really quickly, is there anything else you'd like to share? Any last words of feedback for folks?
I think otherwise just remember that recruiting and applying for jobs is a numbers game. And right now with what the current market looks like, you're going to have to apply for a lot of jobs and you're going to have to apply to a lot of roles. Try to keep a tracker of some sort so you can keep track of where you're applying and what status or stage you're at with those roles. But just it's a numbers game. Send out as many applications as you can, practice and get better at interviews. You only get better at interviews by doing them. Try to debrief with yourself afterwards, after an interview, and kind of think to yourself, what went well, what didn't go well, what can I change for next time? Don't expect to be good at interviewing in your first 1, 2, 3 interviews. Like anything else, it does take practice and time and experience to get better at it. So give yourself as many opportunities as possible to interview, think back afterwards on what you can do better, implement that feedback, and eventually you'll find what you're looking for.
Great. Wonderful. That is so awesome and a really good reminder of resilience for folks because it is tough for sure right now. All right. Thank you so much, Brett. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today. It has been incredibly eye-opening for myself, and I'm sure a lot of folks as well. There were a few questions I didn't get to. So if you wanted to breeze through them in the chat or even take a look at them, but thank you again, and I will unspotlight
Thank you.
and I will wrap up here. So I just want to say thank you again so much to everybody. A big, huge congratulations to everyone from our SPRINT24 cohort and our COLAB22 cohort. It is always exciting to come to the end. I know for a lot of you, it's like time to take a big, deep breath and some rest and relaxation as well. We're always so proud of these, the hard work you've put in, and I can't wait to see where you will go next. I don't know, Shifumi's here on the call. Do you have anything you want to say? Usually you jump in with a few last words, so I'll pass it over to you.
First of all, thank you so much, Brett, for amazing Q&A. Learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else did. Awesome presentations all around. It's always fascinating. I always say this demo day is my favorite time of the cohort because you get to see the learnings, the growth, and all the amazing projects that everyone has worked on. So just keep working on yourself. Continue. It doesn't stop now. Demo day just means you're presenting. Continue to iterate on your product. Find ways to improve it. It's definitely a long game, and learning and even being a product person, not just a product manager, product designer, or an engineer, means you're committed to that life of continually learning and pushing yourself. So thank you all for joining us, and see you in the next one. And I'll also see you all hanging around in the community.
Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And like Shifumi said, we'll see you all in the community. We'll see you around. Take care. Bye.